This comes from Albumism. I love the title of. I like that name, Albumism. It's pretty dope. But I've been noticing some of their articles, I guess, um, on my Facebook page. So I thought I would read. I'm probably not gonna read through the whole article, but I think it's really cool because I remember this when it came out. Um, this was a real game changer. Soul to Soul's first album. It was a real game changer in the R&B world back in the late '80s, early '90s. Oh, I'm sorry. Um, yeah, I'm like throwing off myself. But yeah, it was a real game changer. I mean, it was one thing to where um, it Soul to Soul was definitely a hard act to categorize back then. Um, it's one thing they had this not only R&B thing, but kind of like world music thing going on, but more minimal, like to the point where it had this R&B hip hop feel, um, but like this kind of world music thing. For all you guys that know about this group, you know what I'm talking about. I'm gonna read a little bit of this article and then I'll just put the description and the link. Soul to Soul's debut album Club Classics Volume 1 turns 30. That's a trip, it's been that long. Anniversary retrospective. Happy 30th anniversary to Soul's debut album Club Classics Volume 1, originally released in April 10th, 1989, where a sound system, amalgamation, I could never say that, amalgamation of a good dance music. There is three of us from the north side. These guys were from the UK, actually. It was multi gender group too. So men and women. Um, just as a side note, I thought I would say that. And two, I'm going to reread this. Sorry about that. We're a sound system of amalgamation of good dance music. There's three of us from the north side, two of us from the east, and though our style, people just come to recognize us as funk dreads or funky dreads. Yeah, they were rocking the dreads back in the day. Um, Seldom has a band's musical manifesto been so accurately articulated as it was back in the day. I'm sorry, back in the spring of 1989 by the one and only Trevor for Romeo Obey, more affectionately known as Jazzy B. That's what I know him as. I didn't even know his real name until now. Shame on me. Indeed, Jazzy's declaration of Soul to Soul's identity as an amalgamation of good dance music couldn't have been more spot on, and the group's debut long player Club Classics Volume 1 was a grand embodiment of a cross-cultural genre fluid vision. Curiosity sequence as the album's final track, opposed to the intro jazzy groove, found Soul to Soul founder conveying his fellow funk sense of creative purposes as a bridge connecting to the collective past, present, and promising future, priming listeners for their next chapter. Beyond its lyrical proclamations, the track also left lasting impressions upon the eager ears through the invented sampling of the horns heard on Stevie Wonder's associated Gary Bird's relative obscure 1973 track Soul Traveling, Part 1, the GBE, which Nas and producer Large Professor would lift a few years later for their aspiring MC's 1992 debut single Halftime. Oh man, yeah, I remember that. Though club classics surfaced in 1989, the seeds of Soul to Soul predate the album's arrival by a handful of years. Born to Antiguan parents in London in 1963, Jazzy B at a young age was inspired by his brothers who fervently embraced the dynamic of the sound system, appropriating and adapting the DJ street party collectives that originated in Jamaica in the 1940s and 1950s for their native UK audience. By the early 80s, Jazzy formed his own London-bred sound system whose tentacles expanded beyond music-based events alone into fashion and retail-based events. Retail with the Funky Dread Monkey Ear logo becoming a collective's recognizable brand and core aesthetics, from which all their artistic adventures emanated. So it was more of a collective in a way. By 1988, Soul to Soul had adopted a more formal group lineup with Jazzy B at the center, along with Karen Wheeler, Doreen Waddell, aka Doreen, Rose Windross, Dade, Ach B, Jazzy Q, and Jazzy Q. However, harkening back to the sound system ethos, the band structure has always intended to be flexible, adaptable, and its rooster would ultimately morph and evolve through the years following the initial breakup. Technically, Soul to Soul is a sound system rather than a band per se, which is why we have a rotating lineup of different singers. Jazzy explained to Wax Poetics in 2014, this goes back to the origins of old sound systems as well, because in a sound system, you would have many different MCs or DJs, and all the time combine, and all of these combine to Soul. And I'm going to have you guys read the rest of this, but as I was going to say, I'm sorry for my scattered reading at times, y'all. I got to really get some glasses. I could see that. I could totally see that whole sound system thing, because when they had sound systems, even when they brought that art to New York, I mean, it was always different MCs flowing over it, and just, whoever had the biggest sound system would win if the other one blew out. So imagine taking that ethos all the way to, even within your recordings, you still have that energy there, that live energy and that diverse energy of different singers and just, cats just throwing their stuff out. Even, Jazzy B was a trip too, because it had that, but it was more than just like, to me, it was more than just dance music, and I'll say this, I wasn't really that much into like a lot of R&B, modern R&B at that time. I was more into like a lot of 60s and 70s rock and progressive rock, and even certain R&B from that time. But by that time too, like this was definitely more like experimental than a lot of R&B back then. It was kind of like almost kind of in the midst of New Jack Swing. I think this article even talks about this, but even kind of like in the beginnings of like that too. But it did not fit in that category at all. This stood on its own. I think Jazzy B did a great job with it. And to be honest, I haven't heard anything they did after this album. I'm sure it was some pretty cool stuff. And if I could remember correctly, I think they were even on Soul Train performing too. But, um, I've heard their stuff sampled in different hip hop songs too, you know. I remember Ice Cube's Lynch Mob sampled them. And yeah, that Nas song I remember too. Or one of the things that they sample in that. But anyway, you guys, I'd love to know what you think of this. Sorry for my scattered reading. I should have made it more of a commentary and then just link this, which I'm going to, and yeah, in the bio section. Anyway, y'all, peace. Let me know what you think.